Welcome, Wanderers, to the Masters of Sanctuary Clipcast. I'm your host, Cliptus, and with me today, we have a Diablo partner, an ARPG enthusiast, and a rogue expert. This is Mippy. Mippy, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Cliptus. I'm glad to be here, and yeah, I'm excited for what's to come. So let's get into it.
All right, me too. So first of all, your name. Let's talk about your name. What does it mean? Because it's spelled M1py.
Exactly. So my name is it's like an old moniker, basically from D3 or like even more back then, Warcraft 3 days. We had a clan, and that was called May I Pawn You, and the short form was Mippy. And
Nice.
yeah, that clan eventually disbanded. People moved on in life, right?
Right.
But I felt like, hey, I like that name. Let's pick it up. I think it was like 14 at the time. So yeah,
That's awesome. That is so cool. I mean, it's a great origin for the name. My name has no fun, or I literally was like randomly generated name into World of Warcraft when I first got started. But I've used it ever since. Okay, so
I mean,
for those of you that don't know you yet, tell me a little bit about yourself. Why do you game? And then what made Diablo the game for you to kind of deep dive into?
So I've basically been a gamer my whole life. My father introduced me to gaming when I was little. I started with like stuff like Age of Empires back then, like in the early 2000s, basically. And ever since, I've always had a knack for Blizzard games. I started off with Warcraft 3. I was like playing lots of Dota back then, and yeah, even had some aspirations to go pro in Dota 2. That didn't happen, but I knew some people who would have helped me do that if I wanted to, but life, school, everything.
Yeah.
And yeah, then Diablo 3 came around, and my god, I have spent, I don't even know how many hours I spent in Diablo 3. It's probably way past 10,000 hours. It's absurd, actually.
Wow, very deep into it.
Yeah, for sure. And back then we were... there was a time where I was in ZE, the clan where like other people from Maxwell were in, like Woody, for example.
Okay.
And later on, I moved to make my own clan with a few other people, which was Juice Blasters EU. We named that clan after Quinn's clan when he made Juice Blasters NA back then. So we want to follow like the same thing, like only get dedicated blasters who want to really succeed at the game and like push leaderboards. And yeah, that has been basically my entire thing that I did in D3. And then I originally wasn't even interested in playing D4.
No,
my best friend was like,
okay.
My best friend was like, hey man, you're actually gonna like this game. You should really try it. Like he played the first beta, the first closed beta, and I didn't. And yeah, then I was just like, okay, sure, I'll give the second beta a try. Why not, right?
Right.
What did I say? It was great. So here we are.
Well, here we are. Here
we are. Right.
I actually didn't get to try any of the betas. I hopped into Diablo 4 like basically right at launch. Just one of my coworkers was like, "Hey, you should pick up this game. It just came out. I'm going to get it." And I was like, "Sure, why not?"
Okay, I was about to say, and then I basically started doing like some planners, right? And then my wife was like, "Yo, you should make a video, man." And I was like, "Oh, really? Oh yeah, sure, why not?" I've tried streaming a few years back during Warcraft 3 days, and it was okay. It was a small game. It was more like a niche community thing. But yeah, here we are.
You're right. Okay, so the very first video that you made, do you remember what it was?
The very first video that I made was actually for Warcraft 3. And where I made a funny video about how to do funny things in a map called Vampires and Fire.
Okay.
Where I showed some strategies and some funny things that we did. So that was like the very first video. But
nice.
After all that, there was like I think a 7-year gap or something until I actually did the first Diablo video, which was actually a poison twisting blade guide.
I loved poison twisting blades. Super fun.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. For sure.
And is that what got you started, that build, or did it take a little while?
No, that was actually the build that got me started. Like, I think I was actually amazed. Like, my first video got like 50k clicks right off the bat or something.
Wow.
So
amazing.
Up from the bottom. Let's go.
That's awesome. Amazing.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Okay, so the Rogue has been a fan favorite this season. Going into season 8, it is everywhere. Everybody's talking about it. The Death Trap is incredibly strong. But other than just how strong Death Trap is, what makes that build so much fun?
You mean Death Trap in particular?
Yeah, and then we'll talk about the Rogue itself, but just Death Trap in particular, like what? Because people absolutely love this build. So what is it about that people would love to hop onto?
Yeah, I think Death Trap is just it's just a build that does combine so many things so well for Rogue. Like you have mobility, you have tankiness, but you also have the damage, and you have the AoE. It is like excelling in basically everything, and you have the speed too, right? Because you can just keep chaining dashes, shadow steps, and you pull stuff together. It just feels good to play. It's a build that just satisfying, you know.
Got it.
And the funny thing about it, it was actually even stronger in PTR because the Scoundrel's Leather chest was actually supposed to teleport you to where you throw the trap.
Yeah.
So obviously that was a little too good. So we were like, hey man, that's kind of a little bit too good. How about we reel that a little bit in? And Blizzard obviously also saw that, and yeah, but it's still fun. It's still great. Like
it looks great. I mean, people absolutely love it. So that makes a lot of sense. So with the Rogue being your main class, what initially kind of drew you into the Rogue itself?
So I've basically been playing rogues in other games as well. Like for example, I played a lot of Demon Hunter in D3, so it came quite natural. And when I play like other RPGs, I also tend to go for the sneaky, up close and personal type class if there's one.
Okay.
I also love Rogue in Dungeons and Dragons, the tabletop game.
Okay.
So yeah, it's always been just this fantasy of playing like a sneaky guy and having my blades and going up close and being like a lethal force. It's always been what I enjoyed in the class fantasy. I don't know.
Yeah, it is fun. A silent assassin sneaking up behind people.
Yeah, exactly.
That's cool. So what is your up to this point, what is your favorite Rogue build?
Oh, that's difficult. There's been a lot of great Rogue builds over the time. I think my all-time favorite is probably Shadow Step, like a pure Shadow Step build, which only has started working recently due to a few fixes to Shadow Step and the higher availability of cooldown reduction. I think
so. Is that just this season that it really started, or have you tried in other seasons?
No, it has worked in season 5 basically, but in season 5 you needed like excellent gear to get there, and now with like the new unique boots that were released last season for it, it's even more accessible to play, and it's fun to play. It's like from just the fun part, I think it's great. It's obviously a very active playstyle because you have to keep shadow staying everywhere and use your buffs and all these things.
Right.
But it's fast, it's fun, and I think I just like the flavor of the build. Is it
that makes a lot of sense?
The strongest build? No, it's not the strongest build. It's not even like it's good, right? But it's not as strong as Death Trap, and certainly not as strong as other builds. But it's very good. I like it. I like it a lot.
I love playing fun builds. I don't need it to do the most damage. I don't need it to be the fastest. I put together a Whirlwind Hammer of the Ancients build every single season because Whirlwind Hammer of the Ancients is one of my favorite builds.
Yeah.
So I completely get that, and it makes a ton of sense. Which is honestly for anybody out there that has played the strongest classes, if you want to just enjoy the game, get onto a class. Don't worry about what it does. Just go out there and have some fun with it. It changes the whole way that you look at the game. So that was season 5. It's working in season 8. Do you have a favorite season that you liked more than any of the other seasons?
I think I have to say it has been season 6, honestly, because season 5 is close, in my opinion. Season 5, we had Andariel's Barrage. Man, that build was a smacker of a build, so I loved it. And this is like definitely one of my most successful builds as well, so that's also a cool part.
Okay.
To be honest, I think the the season 6 with the introduction of Dance of Knives, that was fun. That was really, really fun. It was very, very relaxed build. Again, not the strongest build by any means, but it was really good in season 6 because we had the, which unfortunately was a bug, right? That we had access to allowing it to benefit from stun grenade aspects and things. So we had actually good aspects for the build. Now that we don't have that anymore, Dance of Knives is struggling, right? Because it's still like the best leveling build in the game, but after Torment 2, it just falls off a cliff. So, yeah, because there's no scaling, but there's definitely, season 6 was special, right? With the expansion release, so I think that has a special place.
That's awesome. Yeah, it looked like a really fun build. I haven't got to hop onto it yet. So many people have told me you have to try the Dance of Knives build on the Rogue, and yes. I will. I'm going to play a Rogue this season at some point, so I will. I promise everybody that's out there listening, I will do a Dance of Knives Rogue, and that will be what I level with. I love Spin to Win Barbarian, so I will absolutely hop onto a Dance of Knives Rogue. So we'll do that.
You need to try it. It's really great, actually. Like,
okay, I'm going to take your word for it, and my very first one will be at. So a really funny story about the Rogues. In season, was it season 4? I think it was season 4 with the introduction of Tempers. The Rogues were the only ones with the crit damage. Remember that?
Yeah.
Rogues are the only ones that had crit damage, so you had to make a Rogue. And as a barbarian, you really wanted that critical strike damage because it was scaling really well with the grandfather. Mm-hmm. So I started calling all of the rogues that all the barbarians were making, the crit temper barbarians. That became a running joke, and we still talk about it now, is that the rogues were just crit temper barbarians.
That's true. So that's actually something where they just recently we had the same issue on rogues where we made druids in season 7 just to get access to poison tempers, right?
Oh,
or like in season 5 we also made necros to get ultimate damage cooldown reduction. But thankfully they've changed all of these things now, so everyone gets everything, which is way better.
Way better. Yeah, it's definitely better for class balance, because having to make another class to play the class that you want to play just doesn't feel great.
It doesn't feel great, honestly. Like, I don't mind as much, but it's just, you know, if you want to play a certain class fantasy, right, you want to stick to your class, and that's about it.
Yeah, and for people that don't have a ton of time to play every single class and level a bunch of classes, I can see that. I love playing all the classes. I really enjoy them all. But so let's say I'm a barbarian. I just promised that we're going to do a Dance of Knives build.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to get onto the rogue. What is the first thing that I'm going to get myself set up and running to do to get myself leveling, and then think about endgame?
So let's assume you don't have any rogue friends that can trade you gear, right?
Okay.
Because the best thing you could do if you want to play Dance of Knives is get star shards. That aspect. It just extraordinarily increases your leveling speed. But let's say you don't have that, right? And you're not Omega lucky, and you don't find a blue goblin at level 1, which drops you the aspect, so you're just there.
Okay.
The best thing you can do is, well, hopefully you checked out a guide or something if you're starting out, right? And, you know, the good thing about Rogue is you will be surprised at how strong it is in the early game. Like, I was playing together with Chronix when we leveled this season, and he's usually playing Necromancer, right? And he was like, before we keep moving, let me temper some stuff, let me do this and that. And I was like, no, you don't need to do that. Just hold right click. That's fine.
Okay. Just hold right click.
Yeah, just hold right click. And that's all it is. And
okay.
Ideally you press concealment before that. That's about it.
That's awesome.
Honestly.
And that carries you up to 60, right?
It's you can do it just all the way to 16. And I think we got level 16 in like 3 hours or something. It's actually really fast this season.
Very fast, yeah. I think I did it in about 5 on the Barbarian. So much faster. So the Star Shards aspect is what you said.
Exactly.
Okay, so Star Shards for Dance of Knives, what we're going to be starting looking for. If you have access to friends, Dance of Knives is still the recommended leveling build.
For sure, yeah. For sure.
Okay. And then what point are you going to transition to your endgame build? At level 60, you're going to run Dance of Knives all the way through for a couple Torment tiers?
So that wasn't actually a very commonly asked question. Like, let's say you want to transition to Deathtrap, because that's the meta build for Rogue right now. You can take Dance Ice basically all the way to Torment 2. It still works fine there. And that's where you should start looking into killing some bosses, specifically Orvar, that is one of the new bosses in Season 8, or Vashan, as you know that already, right? And these two bosses do drop the unique pants Eyes in the Dark. And to get running with Deathtrap, these are the pants you would want to use. So once you have those, and hopefully also got lucky and got access to a ultimate efficiency temper, which allows you to do Deathtrap cooldown reduction, you can basically get started with the starter variant of the Deathtrap build. So yeah, that's the easiest point to transition to.
I wonder what it is about pants. Last season, Necromancer got their Necro pants, and they were just killing it. This season, you get some pants on the Rogue. Now they're just killing it.
In all fairness, it has always been these pants. These pants have been in the game since Season 1, I think. Or maybe even Season 0.
Gotcha.
I think it's Season 1.
What has been killing it the whole time.
Yeah, like, they weren't as strong as they are now. And also Deathtrap had a few bug fixes that prevented it from actually dealing damage before. So with all that fixed, it's up there.
Beautiful. From what I can see, and just talking to you here today, deep diving into theory crafting seems to be a big thing for you.
Mm-hmm.
What is the draw to that theory crafting? How does someone that's listening get started on theory crafting if they were thinking about jumping into that theory crafting world?
Okay, so that is actually a quite difficult question, but let me start simple. I like math, and that is a very integral part of theory crafting. There's different ways you can approach it. You can just go by feel, right? You just play something, you equip something, and you compare it to how it feels to something else that you equip or play, right?
I like to call that dummy math. I go put something on and go hit the dummy.
Exactly.
I call it dummy math because we hit the target dummies. And
exactly. But you can also just But you can also just, put it on, smack a few health heights, see how it feels, right?
Yeah.
And that's field crafting, which is also fine. This is important because sometimes if you do this and you experience certain things, it can give you grounds to maybe raise a hypothesis about things like, okay, this feels good. Is it really better? Right? And that can give you grounds to start actually doing math on things and trying to figure out why it's good. And if someone wants to get started with theory crafting, well, in D4, it's actually quite difficult, to be very honest, because there are so many weird interactions in this game and things that are absolutely not intuitive that you need to know before you can actually start. So how do you find out about those? Hours of testing or reading guides from people who did that testing and wrote it down. That's the way to go. If you know these things, then actual build making isn't all too difficult because you're basically just looking, okay, how do I get the most damage out of what I'm trying to do? Which usually is done by stacking as many multiplicative effects as possible. So yeah, that's all there is about build crafting. And what I enjoy about it is it's just fun. I just try to have the most optimized version of a build that I like that is possible. That's what I like to do.
Yeah, that makes sense. A lot of people are adverse to looking at build guides because they want to do their own thing. But a lot of the advice that I would give to anybody is if you want to do your own thing, it's still worth looking at build guides. See what other people are running, get some ideas, try them out, see how they feel on your character. And if you don't like it, then don't roll with it. But there are a lot of people out there playing this game and putting builds out, even if they're not top-end content creators. There's a lot of people that are making community builds. They're in Discords. They're posting what they're doing. And everybody has some really great, really fun ideas. I would highly suggest if you're out there and you want to get into building your own builds, look at what people are doing because they're working. It's working for a reason.
And also when I talk about I talk about me and other theory crafters, right? In either Max Roll or if I'm theory crafting with some friends. What we usually do is we talk about a build, and each of us just makes a planner with the build, how we think it should be. And after both of us made a planner, we just go and compare what we made. Like, so maybe I took this route or this Paragon board, and my friend took this one. And then we talk about, okay, why did you take this? Okay, you took this because of this interaction. I took this because of that. And then can we combine this? Can we make a better version out of this? And then at the end, sometimes it's we have 3 different concepts that we try to combine, and suddenly we have great builds. You know, sometimes someone also hits the nail on the head and just dishes out the best version. Happens, right?
Yeah.
But most of the time, it's just a collaborative thing as well. So if you're into theory crafting, find other people who are.
Really, really great advice. Having a community building builds and creating things in this game is actually a lot of fun. I know that a lot of people out there play, but they said like 90% of the people or something really high like that play solo.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of people that hop in, start playing with everybody, and the game kind of changes. It's kind of a scary step, and I can see that. But if you want to get into theory crafting, like, it's really definitely a great way to do it. I'm sure you probably had a lot of people that hop into the stream with you and then talk about things that they're doing.
I mean, that's basically how things started out with many of the people that I actually work with now, right? There were just some people that were hanging out my stream or on Discord, and we shared ideas, we bounced different concepts, right? And then, suddenly, at some point, we all just got together. Some of them are on Maxro now, some of them are at other sites, and I just try to keep in touch with all of them. We keep building, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. So with the top build, and this is actually really cool to see. We're talking top builds, we're talking top players. They're all within about 10, a little less than 10 pit levels with the top clears. Now, every build, obviously, there's always a meta that's going to push really, really high into the pits, but we've never quite seen a spread that is so close. How does that kind of feel about the balance of the game? And then what does it kind of get? Does it get you excited about where we're heading in the future, or?
So that's actually funny that you mentioned this, because I do, while it seems like it is fairly balanced, I do feel like it's the opposite.
Gotcha.
So
okay.
I'll have to explain this a little. So with season 8, the pit tier scaling was changed, right? So every 10 tier, every tier, monsters have around 25 to 28% more HP. So jumping 10 tiers is actually a difference of, I don't have the math at hand, but I think it's something like, let's say it's 1.28 to the power of 10. It's actually 11.8 times more damage. So let's say a build clears 120, and another build clears 110. That means the build that cleared 120 is around 11.8 times better than the previous one.
Okay, yep.
So while that seems like, hey, it's fairly balanced, right? It's just 10 tiers. We're talking about a magnitude of 10 times more efficient than the other builds.
Right.
Which, kind of masks the imbalance a little. And also Spiritborn has recently just risen up the ladder because of a interaction with some boss powers that are a little bit shady, you know?
Yeah, but, I saw that.
I think in general, though, the midfield, like, not the outliers, the midfield is really, really well balanced in its own way. I think the game is very difficult to balance, given that so many multipliers and aspects are in place that actually just, you know, if you add together a bunch of multipliers, it just becomes difficult to find a middle ground, right? So that's probably also why we have such a big scaling in between the tiers, to not have as many outliers in there. So I'm glad to see that the classes perform somewhat similarly, but I think we're still a long way away from having actual balance in the game.
Okay, got it. What do you think needs to happen for the balance to happen?
Okay, so I'll try to keep it rather short, because this could be a thesis, right?
Of course, yeah, huge.
I think the easiest way to achieve balance in the game is to dial down on all the multipliers, because, as I said, if you start adding a bunch of multipliers, it becomes really wild really fast. So other games that have a deep skill tree, different ways to progress your character, mostly work with flat values. Let's say you D3 for it. Okay, D3 is a bad example, but let's take D2, right?
Okay.
Let's go a little bit further back.
Yeah.
D2 had stuff like flat damage, right? or even other ARPGs. You get a ring and it rolls like +5 or +5 to +10 flat damage, right? These things are a little bit easier to keep in check because you only can have so many sources of added damage, and let's say even if you get like a bunch of them, you maybe will deal twice as much damage as you did before, unless your weapon only dealt like 5 damage itself in this example, right? So mostly it's more about dialing back on the multipliers, trying to reel those in a little bit, work more with flat damage, and also like the scaling just has to be a little bit closer in general, like tighter scaling and less outliers. That's the way how balancing things would be easier. I'm not a professional systems designer, so
me neither. Yeah.
This is only what I can say about the math part. But
yeah, I honestly would not want to be in their position. It's a big game with a lot of things that can break really easily.
Yeah,
I definitely would not. So I really like the time when in the game we would hit for hopefully 1 billion damage. Like that was the big numbers that you were shooting for every season. I liked the smaller scaling back, but a lot of people really love seeing huge trillions and quadrillions of damage. Where do you fall in that bucket?
So obviously, how big a number is just a matter of zeros that you add, right?
Yeah.
Technically. So in theory, it doesn't really matter if you hit for 1 billion or 1 trillion. It's all of these numbers are usually out of grasp for a averagely enthused person in terms of math, right? So it's way easier to grasp the concept of, okay, this is 1,000 damage and this is 2,000 damage, for example, right?
Yeah.
Even though technically it's not much different to say, okay, 1 billion, 1.1 billion, right? It's sort of the same thing, but also not, right? Because smaller numbers are easier to process. So I personally, back in season 3, I was on the hunt to get a 1 billion pen shot. So that was actually a long story kind of thing that I tried on stream to try to stack as many multipliers as I can and get that one pen shot out that actually one shots Duriel and it deals 1 billion damage. And yeah, after I don't know, like I think a week or a week and a half, we actually got that, and there's actually a funny video I made about it. So
that's awesome.
It was a nice journey, a nice quest.
Yeah, those are super fun moments, and having like the difference between 1 trillion and 1.2 trillion doesn't feel like, okay, I'm doing like 3, 4, or 500 million, and then you get that 1 billion. It's really cool. That was just personally my opinion. I know a lot of people love seeing big numbers when they're playing games, so there's definitely nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But so for the state of the game in the future, we have a bunch of stuff coming up. We saw the roadmap. What are you most excited about?
Okay, to be honest, I'm a very competitive person, so I'm excited for leaderboards. However, I'm not excited for leaderboards to be just like, okay, 15-minute pitch pushing, here's your leaderboard, right? That's I think before that happens, we need a few more things that need to be changed, right? Maybe like solo cell phones, maybe reducing the pit timer, removing damage resistance mobs. These kind of things would be great.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. But like I enjoyed the last time we had leaderboards. Gauntlet. Like I have the Gauntlet prize like right there behind me for the
very nice
rank 1. So I personally enjoyed Gauntlet a lot. Like really, really a lot. It was fun to make the different paths and try to optimize the run. It was more like an arcade, like back then when you were a kid and playing Mario Kart, trying to get the best time on the time attack, right?
Yeah,
these kind of things. And it reminded me a lot of that. So it was a lot of fun. I don't think Gauntlet is particularly a good competitive mode in that regard because there were a lot of issues with it. But something that is more deterministic and not as much reliant on RNG, which Gauntlet kind of was, would be something I would prefer for a leaderboard because that usually indicates more of a skill tiering than right now with pit pushing, where it's mostly RNG. Do you get the right map? Do you get the right monsters? And do you get the right boss? And hopefully not as many damage reduction monsters. So
yeah.
That is something I would really love to see in the future. I'm excited for it. I hope Blizzard has a good idea for it. I'm trying to provide feedback for it to hopefully see them do something about it. But yeah.
Well, that is awesome. Okay, yeah. I definitely am very excited for what the next couple seasons are going to bring. The expansion pack. I hope the expansion pack's not too far away. I'm very excited to hop in. That is all I got for you today. Thank you so much for doing this with me. That was a lot of fun. Before we wrap this up and before we hop off this, let me know and let the world know, make sure you spell it out for everybody that's listening, where they can go find you and all of your great Rogue content.
So I do most of my Rogue content on YouTube and on Twitch. You can find me on YouTube at youtube.com/Mippy. And the same is true for Twitch. So that's where you can find me. Also, I have my guides on Nextdoor currently, and
All right, and if anybody out there is listening to find him, it is M1py. That's going to be what you need to get there. So thank you, everybody, for listening. M1py. I don't know why I keep on saying I. I cannot. M1py. That's where you go find him. That's awesome. So thank you so much. Hopefully we catch you all on the next episode of the Masters of Sanctuary podcast.
Thank you, guys.